grew up in Cambria Heights, Queens, the largest, actually, African-American middle-class population in the nation. But what most people didn't understand was crack started to penetrate every fabric of society. So the movie Scarface, when I left out of that movie theater, I took on a new dream, and that dream was I wanted to be a drug lord. And I saw that movie at age 11. So I walked with that dream in my heart, and when I went to school, one of my friends had stolen some drugs from his brother, offered me the drugs. I didn't even believe it was drugs. So I gave him $3, and I took the little thing. I thought he was just fooling me. Then a half an hour to 45 minutes later, I felt the power of that drug, and I didn't like it. I didn't want to use it. So then I said, well, could I help you sell it? And that's what opened the gateway. And then I realized the big money was in crack cocaine. And then I started to seek out who were the largest drug dealers, who were the biggest that I could work for to learn how to run and set up an operation. You know, my mother was telling me, she was like, when you get out of college, you'll be able to get a car. And I'm like, but I'm seeing guys my age in junior high school, middle school. He drove a Volvo, and he had a $3,000 chain around his neck. And when I saw the response of the girls in my school towards him, I said I wanted that, you know. And I was always, I think, a fairly pretty good-looking guy, but I didn't have the confidence yet or anything. And I saw that, you know, the best-looking girls liked him because he had a chain around his neck. It wasn't like he was good-looking. So I said, oh, all right, I need to do this. And then when I started to transition to high school, it was even worse. I mean, guys would come to school with these big chains, medallions, and I had, you know, I started buying my jewelry, and you know, I wanted everything now. I wanted it all now. I didn't want to wait. You know, I saw on this show called 21 Jump Street that if you were under 15, the cops couldn't really do too much to you. So I remember I took note of that, and I said, wow, I said, I'm like 11 and 12. They really can't do much with me. And so I went out and I learned, you know, from these guys how the drug game operated. I hid drugs very well for a lot of years. And my mother, she had a lot of excuses for me. And it's my son, they set him up. No, you know, he's just holding this for somebody. No, you know, she wanted to believe the best. But I could never fool my father. He knew, you know, he was a correction officer at Rikers Island. He knew the street world, and he was very, started to pick up that was the decision I made. You know, he handcuffed me and he threatened me. He would make promises to me, hey, if you do well, I'll take you around the world. I didn't know I didn't know the value of around the world. So I'm like, okay, you'll take me around the world. What does that mean to me? I don't care. And then eventually he just cut me off. And he was just kind of like, this is who he is, what he wants to do. You know what? Cut off from me. Don't ask me for anything. Don't put. So then I kind of felt this other freedom, like, all right, I'm not with my dad. Nobody's with me. It's me in the world. All right, then let's do it. And then I had so many, like drug dealers, smart ones. They set up these homes and these houses and this false sense of we're your new family. You know, I didn't ever fall totally into that because I knew there was a lot of violence. There was a lot of, you know, guns and things. So I didn't buy that, like this whole gang thing. Oh, please, you know, you're not my brother. But I ran with them, and I knew, you know, I still had to take care of myself. And I just went all out. 16 is when I started to officially become my own boss. But 15, I was selling drugs for this organization called the Sims Brothers. And I was selling drugs from 12 in the afternoon to 12 midnight. I dropped out of school by that point. I got arrested with the Sims Brothers, and they let me stay in there 5 days before they bailed me out. And I was hot about that because I was like their best moneymaker. I mean, I gave them like a 8-month run without the operation having one bust. They've never had that before. So they're buying cars, they're buying everything, they're shooting rap videos, all because my shift was the money shift. And they left me in jail for 5 days on Rikers Island. And I came out, I was so mad. I was like, you know what? As hard as I work, as hard as I hustle, I could do this for myself, you know? And I just launched into it on my own, and went to one of the main drug blocks, partnered up with a friend, and said, yo, we got to do this here. Then I fought the Sims brothers, which was unusual. I mean, they had these twin brothers named Tim and Jim. I mean, they were these diesel ex-football players that could fight like nobody's business. And when I approached them at, you know, transition from 15 to 16, and when I fought them, I don't know what happened, to be honest. I thought I got pounded out. And then finally one of them knocked me to the floor. And then, you know, I got up. And when I got up, you know, I put on the good show, like, I ain't scared of y'all, I'll fight y'all any day, you know, whatever, kind of being taken away from that. So then this whole street cred developed, that this young guy, Daylight, was the only guy that handled both brothers by himself. And it's like a legend started. It wasn't true, but it started to really surface everywhere. So now I started going up to people like, yo, you're gonna work for me, yo, we're gonna do this, yo, you need to come on my team. And I just started to build a little team, and people didn't try me for a long time. And then eventually, you know, in the drug world, people would try you, and different things started to happen, and, you know, killings happen. And then the cops, you know, eventually set me up. So just so anybody's watching, there are good cops, but every police officer and every human has sin. We are all sinners. So cops were tired of me. They wanted me off the streets. So they planted drugs on me and they locked me up. They were like, he's a dealer. We know that. We couldn't bust him, but we're going to illegally arrest him. And that's what they did. Went to Rikers Island for a year, got out, and then dived into the drug world again. And then eventually my parole officer handcuffed me because I turned in some dirty urine because I was cooking up the drugs like the TV show Breaking Bad. The cocaine was going into my pores. And then I escaped. I mean, when she handcuffed me, I slipped the cuffs to the front, and when she came back in the room, I jetted on her and was chased and escaped from 50, 60 cops looking for me, had to dress like a woman to get through a checkpoint, and made it down to North Carolina. It's a wild story.